everyone, it's Heather. Welcome back into the Paper Castle. Just want to give you a few updates on a couple things that have sold in my store, in my eBay store in the last couple of days. These are things that I have not shown to you previously. This little guy sold last night. This is a little pewter mug. It's made in Germany. It's marked, let's see, BMF Zinn on the bottom of it. And I researched it and found that there were a few of these on eBay, and the average selling price was around $15. I put it up for auction at $15. It didn't sell at auction. I rolled it over into my store for a buy it now price of $14.99, and it sold last night. So I was happy about that, especially because when I bought that Stein, it came in this big box of stuff. I bought this box of stuff 2 years ago when I was first starting out doing the yard sale thing for $5, which I thought was a really good deal. 2 years ago, I was really clueless. I really didn't know what I was doing. I'm still clueless, but you know, I do know a little more than I did back then. But there's so much more for me to learn. But anyway, there were a lot of pieces in here, and these are all matching pieces. They have these little crests on them. It's like a little sugar bowl and creamers, and there's another creamer down in here somewhere. There's a whole bunch of these pieces in here, and I need to get some more information before I sell them. The only thing I do know is they're made by Gorham. They have a mark on them that says Tudor City, you know, under this crest on the front. It says Tudor City down here. And then they also say Fred F. French Companies. So the only thing that I could find out was that Tudor City is an apartment complex that was built in the early 1900s in New York City, close to Times Square. They were built by Fred French, who was a big real estate developer at the time. But that's all I know. I can't find any of these pieces anywhere. And the other thing that was in that box was this big, like, pitcher. I had no idea what this was. I did find one just like it in on an antique website. It's made by the Stanley Insulating Company, and I found out this is actually a syrup jug. And on the antique website I found it on, they wanted $150 for it. So I'm hoping that this one will bring me maybe $50 to $75 on eBay. So what I think I'm going to do with all these things is, we have a local auction house. This one's a pretty high-end auction house. It's called Rago Auction House, or Rago Art and Antiques, I think. And the owners are actually always on the Antiques Roadshow on PBS. But they have a free appraisal day on Mondays, and you can take, I think it's up to 6 items, and someone there will appraise them for free. I haven't gone yet, but I have a few things put aside, and I think I'm going to go this Monday and check it out and see what they say about some of my items. So if you ever have questions about things, you know, look in your area, see if there's any local auction houses that might do stuff like that for you. So I'll let you know how that turns out next week. Plus, I just want to check the place out because I think I would love to try and get a job there. I would love to work in an auction house. I think it would be so interesting. You know, once my daughter gets into school full time. Okay. The next thing I sold, well, this isn't actually what sold. I sold a similar bag of earrings. These are the pierced ones. I sold the clip-on ones the other day for $9.99. There may be a few more pairs than in this bag. But like I said, all the jewelry I sold last week, that big lot that I sold for $93, plus these earrings, the clip-on earrings, and all those little Christmas tree pins I sold. I don't think I spent more than $20 to $30 on everything. So I didn't do too bad. Now I only have this lot left to sell, and I'm done. Next thing I wanted to talk about is, and there's going to be a glare, sorry guys, it's this big coffee table book. It's by Walker Evans, called First and Last. This is a book of photographs. Walker Evans was a famous photographer. I found this at a yard sale for $1. I don't usually buy a lot of books, mainly because I have no idea what I'm doing. I know there's tons and tons and tons of books, and some are worth something and some are worth nothing. And since I don't know a lot, it's kind of like a big crapshoot for me. But I like the quality of this one. I like the pictures in it, and for $1 I figured I would take a chance. Turns out that this was a first edition, published back in 1978, and when I researched it on eBay, there were a few other copies going for anywhere from around $60 to over $100. So I finally got around to listing this a couple of weeks ago. I've had this for probably a couple years. Listed it a couple weeks ago for $49.99. It did not sell at auction. I rolled it over into my store, and for the same price, for a buy it now price of $49.99, and it sold this morning. So I'm very, very happy about that. But I just wanted to let you know why I get intimidated about selling books, because there are some collectors out there that are extremely particular, and me not being an expert, that kind of scares me. But this is the email that I got from this person last night. I'll read all the questions they asked about it. They wanted some more details about the condition. So they wanted to know, what's the additional dust cover? Is this a second dust jacket or just a clear protective Mylar cover? I guess I said it had two covers on it. So I did mean this Mylar cover, like they put on books at the library. Then they said, are the inside pages clean and white? Is there any yellowing around the edges? Are there any folds or creases on the inside pages? Are the spine and binding intact? Any pages loose or falling out? Are there any bumps or defects on the cover and dust jacket? And is the dust jacket price clipped? I didn't even know what that meant. I had to look that up. So, obviously, after I got that message yesterday morning, I was a little scared about looking at this and answering their questions. But I did the best that I could. I found out what price clip meant. That just meant, usually they put the price inside the dust jacket here. Sometimes I guess it gets clipped off. So this one was not price clipped. But I answered them the best that I could. I told them, I am not an expert. I'm being as honest with you as I possibly can. Like I told them, there's an imperfection obviously right here in the dust jacket. The cloth cover up here was a little faded. The end papers were a little faded. As far as I could tell, the inside pages weren't really yellowed, but I don't know what their definition of yellowing is. It might be like, the slightest color change. I'm not sure. But anyway, I was as honest as I could be. They decided to buy it, so we'll see what happens. But I do think that even if they get it and it's not completely what they wanted, I think they'll still be happy with it, or if not, I could give them maybe a partial refund or something like that. But I think everything's gonna go okay with that. But that's why I get intimidated with books. This one I bought at the same sale a couple years ago. This is The Art of Wyland. I just love his stuff. And the other reason I bought it was because he autographed it. So, because I had this signed copy, I put this up for $30. This actually sold a couple weeks ago, but it sold to someone in England, and they didn't realize how much it would cost to ship it, because this, with the box, weighs over 4 pounds. So anything that weighs over 4 pounds has to go priority. So it was going to cost around $30 to ship it. So they ended up not wanting it, which kind of ticked me off, because then I have to tell eBay that we've decided to cancel the transaction. Then I have to wait a few days before everything clears, before I can put the book back in the store. It's much easier if the international people just ask me how much things cost to ship before they just go ahead and buy things. Like that teapot I showed you guys the other day, they still haven't paid for that. It's supposed to go to Brazil, and I don't think they're going to, because it costs $22 or $21 to ship it. Alright, and last but not least, I wanted to recommend some books to you guys. These are what I started reading when I first started doing the whole garage sale thing. I found this book originally. This was her third in the series There's 4 books in the series. I don't know where my other 2 are right now. This was the first one, the 100 Best Things I've Sold on eBay. This was the 3rd one, and they're by Lynn A. Drawley. And she's a big seller on eBay. She also does a lot of classes and stuff like that. But I found this when my husband and I were on vacation in Arizona a couple years ago, when I was starting to think about doing eBay. And there are just a whole bunch of things in here. It's a whole big mishmash of items that she's bought, from toys to knickknacks to dishes, calculators, shoes, all kinds of things. And she tells you, always tells a little story about it. She tells how much she paid, and then she tells how much she made off of the item. And she usually tells you where she bought it from. Now, this gal does a lot better than I do, because she grew up in an antique store, so she has way more knowledge than I ever will. But I have learned a lot from reading these books, and I just want to give you guys a couple quick examples. Some of you remember I sold those Christmas tree pins a couple weeks ago, and this was why I bought those initially. She paid $2 for this rhinestone Christmas tree pin at a church sale. It was signed Weiss, which is a good name, and she sold it for $152.50 back in 2005. So that was a great profit. So I always have my eye out for costume jewelry. And then the other thing that I ended up profiting from by reading this book was this vase. It's, you know, it looks like a regular, just, you know, old vase you'd buy at a garage sale or a thrift store. It doesn't look fancy or anything. She paid $5 for it at a thrift store, but she said it was marked Arabia, Finland on the bottom. So I had that name floating around in my head, and she sold it for $56. I had the Arabia, Finland name floating around in my head. And I went to a yard sale, again, 2 years ago when I first started. And this really grouchy old woman was putting a bunch of stuff out on her table. And she brought this big white pitcher out, you know, like you pour water out of, water pitcher. It was white, and it had this ugly painting of a bull / cow on it. It was a bull, you know, it had horns, but it had udders too. It was bizarre. Anyway, it was hideous. But I turned it over, and it said Arabia, Finland on it. And she didn't have prices on anything, so I asked her, and she says, "It's $5. I'm like, okay. So I gave the nasty woman $5 and went on my merry way, and ended up selling this pitcher for $190. That was my first big home run on eBay. I was bouncing off the walls that night when it sold. And for some reason, it went to Australia. They paid $36 to have it shipped priority to Australia. But I only had questions from people in Australia and people in Finland about it. Very weird. So it never hurts to educate yourself. I'm constantly reading books, watching videos, searching things on eBay all the time to learn as much as I can. So I highly recommend these books. You can probably find them in your local bookstore. If not, they can order them for you. Or I'll put the link to her site down below. So that's it. That's it, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I hope maybe you learned something. And I had someone watch the other day and heard me talk about my coffee mugs, and they started putting mugs up, and one of them has a bid right now. So thank you to Deep South Pickin' for watching my video, and congrats on getting the bid on your mugs. So thanks for watching, everyone. Talk to you soon.